Today we're talking about the new Zoom R20. Hello everyone, welcome to Unfiltered. I am Tay and this is Cal. We are around the drum today to talk about the new Zoom R20. It came out just over a month ago, so it's relatively new, but this thing is pretty cool. It's a multi-track recorder. You can use it either standalone without hooking it up to a computer, or you could hook it up to a computer as an interface. For those that are unfamiliar, the R20 has 8 inputs, 2 combo jacks in the 1 and 2, and then 3 through 8 up top. It's 8 simultaneously, but you can record up to 16 tracks by the toggle switch, which takes these 8 into the next 8. And then you have faders to match, record, enable.
Which is nifty because those faders, obviously you're counting 2 hypothetical channels per each fader, so they have that latching behavior once you're working on the song, which is exactly what I would hope that would happen if you're working with 2 channels per 1 fader.
Yeah.
It can get weird if it was trying to match it, so that latching behavior is nice to have.
And that's a good warning, to say that there's that little latching kind of thing going on.
If you haven't had to work with it before, it's going to seem weird.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't work or something at first, but then you go up and latch it, and then if you switch to the other track, you have to do the same thing, latch to it, and then it works.
You have to grab it again before you actually start making changes, yeah.
Which is cool, because it obviously remembers the other bank of tracks where you're at with the faders.
Yeah.
And then it's got obviously the gains up here. You got the high Z, the phantom power switches.
So on the side here, you've got the SD card slot, of course, and then a USB-C slot, and then the Bluetooth remote port.
And on the back, you have outs, headphone out, headphone volume control, the power switch, and the power PSU plugin. And then over there, obviously the touchscreen and the transport controls.
It's all nice and color-coded, too.
Yes, for easy workflow, you got your fader colors, you got your gain knob colors, and then over here, it matches with the LCD track line, yeah. So you can see exactly where you are while you're recording.
I like this new color scheme from Zoom and all the new stuff. Because
yeah.
I know the old ones obviously didn't have it, but everything now from Zoom, whether it's this or I know the podcast recorders, they all have that color scheme now.
Yep,
I'm starting to like it.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if I liked it at first, but this is very subtle. It's not too flashy. It's just right there if you look. So I agree with you. With you.
All right, so let's actually take a look at the R20 itself. We've got it right here in front of us. Then from the start, we can pick a project. We don't have any that we've made right now, so it's just new project. But beforehand, if we want to check out, we can go into templates, and we have a whole bunch of genres here, from rock to hip-hop, disco. They give you starting points depending on what style of music you'd want to make. We're just going to go ahead and just create a blank project. And right away, we get this multi-track viewer. If I just tap anywhere in here, I can add an audio file, either an SD card or from a USB memory. Up here we actually have 3 options that are track options. This can be a waveform, a rhythm instrument, which ends up taking up 2 tracks to be stereo, or a standard instrument track. We can select the tracks. You can see which one you're selecting since it'll be highlighted, but if we tap it again, we can get into track settings. This is where we get all our sort of pan and EQ controls, and then also send levels. Once we start setting up effects, and we even have compressors on the bottom in each individual track settings, and just dial in a compressor, a limiter, even a noise gate, and just sort of dial those in by track. You don't have to make those sends. Those are built into each track itself. And we could stereo link, and suddenly this becomes a track 1 and 2 combination. If we go back, we can turn that off. And for those sends, if we go up there to effects, we now have our effect options, where we can select and sort of dial those in. And then if we go back into track settings, we can then raise that send level. If we go over here to the mixer window, we can suddenly see the faders, but we'll see right away that these are a lot higher than the faders physically here. So if we bring one of these up, it'll actually latch onto it. Just kind of important to know when you start this up for the first time that the faders will actually wait to latch to their default positions. And this gets pretty important since we're using 8 faders for 16 tracks. So if we hit this button here, this will actually switch us, and you'll see the light here even changes between the 1 through 8 and the 9 through 16. And now this fader, which is physically down here, still has to latch on to this channel. And then if I go back, it's also not touching this channel over here until it latches on. And then way up here we have some project settings if we want to set a tempo and change the time signature. And then we can have some metronome settings. So here it's just an on and off. You can select metronome on and off just with this button right here. But if we go back to that project window and hit it here, suddenly we have the tap tempo option.
Cal, what were your first impressions with this thing?
Well, I know we've seen a few of these similar models from Zoom, whether it's like the R16 or the R24. We've seen them before, and I've always thought that one of the problems, just when I've used them recently in the past, is thinking about navigating that kind of old style of interface. Like, you still have all the controls, you have all the inputs like you'd expect, but it was always the navigation of when you're songwriting. And I feel like this is the one that just makes sense now.
Yeah. It's got an awesome little touch screen, which was surprising at first.
I didn't even think it needed a touch screen, but just the fact that it's that modern kind of navigation of that DAW, what you'd expect, sort of events and blocks.
Yeah, I think it's really handy. The workflow is awesome. That touchscreen has all the necessary, setting buttons and configurations right in that screen.
It does what you would want it to do, as far as I can tell. And if it's not on the screen yet, as soon as you tap something, then you get the options, and it's.
I think that saves a lot of space on the unit.
Yeah.
Everything is in there. And then you have, obviously, the transport controls and buttons down there, which you kind of have to have.
Yeah.
And then over here is just all the inputs. So I don't know. I think it's handy. It's kind of cool. And so we got to play around with it a little bit. We didn't really do a deep dive here, but we just kind of got our hands on it and kind of showed off what it's capable of a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the moment I noticed how nifty it was over on this side, I just thought we had to say something about it.
Yeah.
So we've just hooked up a drum machine here to input 1. And as you can see, we've got this armed, we're ready to go. It even shows up over here with the numbers on the display. It'll turn red over here. So we're all set to go. Let's get this playing. And now we just hit record, and this will just start running. So we'll just grab a few seconds of this. And then if we stop that, we can see we even have a waveform display here. If we want to, we can select a certain time. We can go in, even split it if we want. Now we have 2 events, and we can just move these around freely. Just kind of like we're in a DAW editor, a timeline editor. We can bring these into different tracks if we wanted. We can get this copied and select a different spot here. And then we can just paste that event. And if you want to get a little more precise, you can actually drag and zoom in on these events. Just in case you want to do some fine tuning, you're not stuck with just one display size. It's just all the standard controls you would expect from a computer program, but now it's just right on the desktop, literally.
I think this thing packs a huge punch for its small footprint. You can put it on a desk. You can take it with you. You don't have to hook it up to a computer. It's just got so many capabilities. Obviously, you have to plug it in, though. There's no battery power, but that's okay.
But it behaves just enough like a computer DAW.
Yeah.
Which I think is now... I just think it's nice that it's now starting to behave like a computer, that you could be on the go or just not quite need to be around your DAW all the time, that it now really is starting to look like that sort of interface that you'd expect.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
I mean, there's even Bluetooth functionality, so you could control this thing remotely from a tablet if you wanted to.
Yeah, if you're like an engineer, you could be in the other room if you had a podcast going, and you could be controlling.
Yeah, this is out in the recording studio, and you could be,
doing something else somewhere else, controlling it, overseeing it. So that's pretty cool too.
It's just so much. There's just so much in there.
Mm-hmm. This thing retails for $399.99, and for up to 16 channels and a touch screen, portability. It's got an SD card slot, USB-C out. I think that's pretty good.
And then the interface on top of all of that, interface functionality.
This thing's got a lot going for it, and we were pleasantly surprised with this thing.
Yeah.
When we first got them in, we were like, yeah, okay. But then when we got it out and working with it,
Yes.
it was very surprising in a very good way.
Yeah, the whole time I thought, well, it's neat that they're doing this again. And then once we saw it, I knew we had to talk about it.
Well, let us know what you think. Do you have one already? Have you been kind of deciding whether to get one or not? Or do you need something like this? And I guess now that you know more about it, is this what maybe you've been looking for? Let us know in the comments below. We appreciate you guys chiming in. And if you're around that area, give this video a like. We appreciate the support. But thank you for watching. And Cal, we'll see him around the drum
Next time.